Good evening, this is Viewpoint. I'm Zakir Jacob. 19 opposition MPs were suspended today in the Rajya Sabha after chaotic scenes when no discussion happened and placards were being waved. This after 4 Congress MPs were suspended yesterday in the Lok Sabha. The government says that the presiding officer in both instances had no choice because the opposition was just not keen on letting the House run. The question is, clearly the opposition wants to put the government on the mat on issues of its choice. Why doesn't it allow the discussion to happen, the House to function, so that their own purpose of cornering the government is served? But first, the story of how it's been a suspension spree in Parliament.
The House and shout slogans. It is against the will.
Fireworks in Parliament have become synonymous. But this monsoon session, we are witnessing a string of suspensions of opposition MPs. As many as 23 in 24 hours. Today, 19 MPs from Rajya Sabha were suspended for the rest of the week. They have been reprimanded for misconduct by entering the well of the House and indulging in sloganeering.
That is throttling our democratic right. Suspension has happened because this government has no answers. They do not know how to reply to inflation and price rise. That's the whole point.
But even after the suspension, the 19 MPs continue to sit in the House in protest. The latest showdown comes a day after 4 Congress MPs in Lok Sabha were suspended for the rest of the monsoon session. They had held placards inside the House despite warnings from Speaker Om Birla.
We once again repeat and request that the House be allowed to function smoothly and the government will be ready to discuss any issue, including price rise.
Ever since the monsoon session began last week, both houses have been repeatedly adjourned, with the opposition demanding discussions on price rise and GST. But the suspension spree is only likely to escalate the opposition's fury against the government. So is there no end in sight to the deadlock in Parliament?
All right, on the talking point this evening here on Viewpoint, Tom Vadakan, BJP spokesperson, joining us, Swati Malik, Congress Party spokesperson, Manojit Mandal, TMC member and political analyst, and Varun Singh, political analyst, also joining us. Let me start with Swati Malik. As per Rule 374 of the Conduct of Business of the House, placards are not allowed. This is the laid down rule in both houses. MPs are supposed to adhere to this basic parliamentary etiquette. Why are members of parliament keen on breaking this rule? And if they break this rule consistently, then why are you taking offense to the presiding officer? Because what choice was that person left with?
Zaka, let me remind you of another rule, Rule 267, under which the demand of the opposition, of the united opposition, can be permitted and should be permitted by the central government, by the speaker for that matter. We should be allowed under Rule 267, should be allowed to have those debates on GST, on price rise, on the Agnivat scheme. We should be permitted to have that. But to say that, okay, we will do it and still not giving a specific time date, why not have a debate now? Why
because
not?
the minister concerned is not available, Swati. I mean, what is the point of doing a debate on price rise and GST if the finance minister is ill?
And what about the other? What about Agnipat? What about other aspects? What about misuse of the central agencies that the opposition wants to raise the question of? There's so many topics that we want to debate upon. If the finance minister is not available, okay, we can wait a day. But what about the other topics? But to say that yes, we will do it. करने को तैयार हैं. लेकिन कब तैयार हैं? That is what we're not getting.
Tom Vadakan, it's a routine practice that adjournment motions are moved under 267. Oftentimes, governments in the past have agreed to short duration discussions. Why is the government, or at least the impression that's going out, and the opposition is conveying this impression, that the government is shying away from discussing pressing issues like price rise, GST, Agnipat, etc.?
Zaka, it is a reality. This suspension spree is not something that was invented in Parliament. You have seen that in Maharashtra. 12 BJP MLAs were suspended in the year 2022. And for a year, believe me, and Supreme Court had to intervene. That's one. And that was a coalition partnership with Congress. Now, as to the question of Bengal, yes, there has been suspension and other issues also when there were issue of the violence that happened there, and about 5 BJP MLAs were suspended. So let the matter rest on suspension. It is not a murder of democracy. It is a practice, a rule. If there is ruckus in the house, you create an environment where you cannot talk civilly. A civil discussion is not possible. And in that case, you have an accentuating situation. And as you rightly pointed out, finance minister is down with COVID. We are ready for discussion, Zaka, on any subject under the sun. But the problem is they want to grab headlines. They want to create a ruckus. And when they do this, they think they get headlines. But that's not true. People of India have woken up. They are seeing the reality that they are not ready for discussion. And I want to add something more.
Yeah.
There was we want positive discussions and solutions. Do you remember Thomas Isaac of Kerala Finance Minister, who said if we have inflation, print more notes and go the Sri Lanka way, you know. This is the kind of solutions they point out. Quick solutions, quick solutions. Print more notes to solve inflation.
Okay, let me ask Monojit Mondal, as of now, as of the last 1 week when the monsoon session convened, the productivity percentage in the Lok Sabha is 16% and in the Rajya Sabha is 25%. If this trend continues for the remainder of the session, it goes on till the middle of August, then it will be the third worst ever productive session since parliamentary research data began in 1999. Do you believe that the people of India are better served with such low productivity in both houses?
To answer to your question, let me quote the famous saying of Mr. Arun Jaitley, whose responsibility is to run the parliament. It is the government. And if the parliament is not run, I think our leader in the Rajya Sabha has extensively spoken on the matter. It is the benefit of the government. The government disrupts. I think government disrupts without even any provocation at times. I mean, papers, placards, I mean, are the issues? While you are talking about the issues, the people's issue, burning people's issue, of price rise, of economic blockade, on GST. I mean, yes, we believe that the finance minister is, sick, down with COVID. We wish her a speedy recovery, but there can be deputies of the finance minister. I mean, the discussion can happen on other issues. You do not want to discuss any issues, any matter
Manojit, the government's argument is the opposition is only hell-bent on creating a ruckus, waving placards which are against the rules of the House. The only thing you want to do is to capture headlines. And that is what is happening. How is the now? Can I ask one question? Manojit, can I ask a simple question?
Yes.
Wouldn't the opposition's own purpose, which is to corner the government, put the government on the mat on issues that are of pressing concern to the people of this country, be better served if there are discussions that happen inside Parliament rather than this kind of disruption, this kind of placard waving, which has led to the suspension? What you're doing, the strategy you're adopting is counterproductive to your own purpose.
Why does one need to even agitate mildly, softly, moderately? Because we have seen even before the beginning of the parliament how you treated the members of the parliament. You had different kinds of codes of conduct. I believe the government is feared as the lions on these new parliament building. That's why they are showing their teeth. This has become a kind of weapon. Suspension has become a kind of weapon for them.
Okay, let me ask Varun Singh, because the question that's being asked is, okay, finance minister is not available. Surely there are MOSs who can answer questions that the opposition may have. And secondly, there are adjournment motions that have been moved for other issues as well, whether it is Agnipath, the defense minister is available surely in parliament, whether it is use of agencies as the opposition puts it, the Home Minister is available in Parliament. Why is the government not agreeing to do those discussions where ministers are available?
To be honest, if you hear what the Speaker yesterday said, he was ready to hold a discussion. But the MPs of Congress, especially in the Lok Sabha, weren't even willing to go back, sit on their seats and throw the placards out of the House. That prompted him. He has been very kind, he has been accommodative, and he also said that he wants to hold discussion, and he was allowing to hold discussions, but that wasn't happening. And I think Congress people even learned that what happened in Lok Sabha, that is the reason. In Rajya Sabha, you see all the MPs suspended, none of them belong to Congress. And most of them are, willful defaulters because Previously too, if you see Sushmita Dev in 2018, the other Congress MP who was suspended by the Lok Sabha Speaker yesterday, they have been suspended earlier for similar activities. Ignorance of law is no excuse. You cannot go in the well, you cannot hold placards. These are simple things, and this shows that these MPs who are there to make rules and regulations do not want to follow simple, basic rules. And, wasting such precious time, the people of this country are waiting to hear every particular debate. They want things to move. And, I just want to correct. The government is responsible to run the parliament, but in Ruckus, it can't run it smoothly. But to be fair to the BJP and the NDA, they have passed more than 167 bills since 2020 till 18/7/2022 in the House, even amid all the ruckus that they have been creating.
I want to bring our viewers' attention to the fact that it costs, and this is by the government's own admission some years ago in Parliament, that it costs 2.5 lakh rupees every hour to run Parliament. So what we've essentially lost over the last 1 week of an unproductive session with just 16% in the Lok Sabha and 23% in the Rajya Sabha is tens of crores. So Swati Malik, why is this a waste on the taxpayers' money? People who are funding Parliament, whose job it is for discussion, debate, legislation, that money is going down the drain because of some placards and TV camera angles and as a consequence of that, suspensions.
Zaka, that question should be pointed at the BJP spokesperson here, because they are the ones who are responsible for this. Like I said earlier, if the finance minister is not available, let's start debates. Don't say that we will have it now, and just stop this. If you are blaming the opposition for creating a ruckus, do not give us this opportunity. Stop us there and then. Say yes, okay, let's start the debate. Let's do it now. Why if the government is so innocent in this and absolutely, there's all bona fide in this, then why are we having this debate?
Is the taxpayer money being wasted because of disruption, or is it being wasted because government is saying that let the minister come in and then we'll have the discussion?
Because the taxpayers' money is being wasted because of the government's decision to not continue the debates on any of the topics. That is why the taxpayers' monies are being wasted. All of our money is being wasted.
Let me ask Tom
We are all paying taxes.
Surely you would also agree, Tom, that price rise is an important issue. It is a pressing issue for tens of millions of people around this country. Surely there are MOS finance ministers who are there who can answer these questions. There are various other capable ministers who can answer these questions of the opposition. Why should this discussion have to wait?
Zaka, I accept we have very competent ministers, MOSs and all that. But when you have an MOS taking up an issue, they'll say, where is the finance minister? Why is she busy? Where is she? This is if you have it or you don't have it. You have a situation where they will create a ruckus anyway. We are ready to discuss everything threadbare, Zaka. There's no issue about it. But if you bring an MOS, they'll say, where's the finance minister? And when you bring the finance minister, they'll say, where's the prime minister? This kind of arguments can go on until the cows come home. Ground reality is you're paid, your freebies are all there because the exchequer is paying for it. Zaka, it's your money, it's my money, it's the taxpayers' money. They are not there to hold placards or be street fighters. People have elected them to present their opinion, debate in a civil way. That is how things go forward, not creating a ruckus. And that is precisely what they attempt, and they want to grab headlines every day.
I want to ask Manojit Mandal, it's not the first time that members of parliament have been suspended. In 1963, it was the first time in 1963 when the Congress was in power, a few Lok Sabha MPs interrupted the then president's address. They were suspended in 1963. In 1989, again, when the Congress was in power, this is on the back of the Mandal Commission, 63 MPs were suspended from the Lok Sabha for discussion on the Thakkar Commission report. And in 2010, which is the worst productive session that the Parliament has ever seen on the back of the 2G scandal and the discussions thereof, 7 MPs were suspended from the Rajya Sabha. Please explain to me why you believe what has happened over the last couple of days is so extraordinary that it's different from all the instances that I've listed of MPs being suspended.
I'll answer. Let me take you back to 1 year ago. What happened? Farm bills. Maximum number of suspension happened during that point of time, and Trinamool Congress was singularly targeted. What you did with the farm bill? Did you take it back? Now it's time for you to then apologize for suspending these people. Have you done so? What are you talking about? When we are talking about a legitimate issue where the government had to back out finally, the farm bill, which is a draconian bill, not just the suspending
Sir,
of...
if you remember, I don't know, I can check with my producers to pull out those pictures. No, Manojit, give me 1 second, give me 1 second. The reason why TMC MPs were suspended, I think it was 2 sessions ago, was because some of your MPs physically assaulted marshals inside the House. The issue may have been farm bill, but that's not why they were suspended. They were suspended for physically assaulting marshals.
That's absolutely wrong. There was extreme level of provocation. And look at the manner in which they have been suspended for something which was so legitimate, which was so justified. The government had to acknowledge that it was legitimate by taking the bill off.
Physically assaulting marshals is legitimate. Physically assaulting marshals is legitimate.
No, nothing happened of that sort. Nothing happened of that sort.
Sir, there was CCTV footage.
Certainly not.
There was CCTV footage of marshals of the House being phically assaulted. I clearly remember Dola Sen was one MP's name I can think of, who was seen physically assaulting one of the marshals inside the House.
We could also see women members were assaulted. That's not the point. The bigger point is that how the government is passing the bills. How much discussion do you take, you hold on certain bills? Not even 9, 10, 12 minutes of discussion when you are passing important bills.
Varun Singh, one of the perennial complaints. One second, Manojit, let me ask Varun Singh. Fair point. Discussion is not happening on bills. Varun Singh, one of the perennial complaints of the opposition has been, look at the number of bills that have been sent to the standing committee. I think it's in single digits, the percentage, over the last couple of years or so. Why is there this reluctance to send bills to a standing committee?
I wouldn't say it's reluctance. Probably they are doing whatever the government feels is better. Most of the time, the government brings the bill to the House and wants a fair debate. It is sad that we have people who are defending, attacking marshals and say that, it is a legitimate thing, provocation. I can't believe it. These are MPs who have served for the nation, for their constituency for such a long time, and they get provocated on simple things. And they waste so much time, such precious time and money of ours, which actually should be spent in debating. I only just want to point out one thing to Ms. Malik. The Speaker has been continuously in the Lok Sabha stating that he wants to hold debate, he will allow time to hold debate, but just let's follow something that is called parliamentary procedure. Even that is being not heard by the opposition, and then they expect that everything, yani chit bhi meri, pat bhi meri. You can wake up someone who's sleeping, but not someone who's pretending to sleep, and the opposition clearly looks like that right now.
No, I want to ask Swati Malik. 374A was a rule that was introduced when the UPA was in power. It's not like the BJP introduces. And 374A very clearly says that members of parliament cannot be seen waving placards, cannot be seen disrupting the House. You cannot be tearing up documents inside the House. You cannot be seen shouting slogans. Now, if this has been instituted for the last many years and it is as applicable to BJP MPs as it is to the opposition MPs, then, why are you grudging the presiding officer for going by the rule book?
The grudge, Zaka, is with the intent here. Please understand, first, no debates are allowed. Then when the MPs want to walk to the Rashtrapati Bhavan to present a memorandum, they are not given permission. They are just arrested and taken to far-off police stations. So what I'm trying to say is here that the intent is to just suppress the voice of dissent here. Whoever is going to raise any questions, please tell me these 167 bills that were passed, how many were held, how many debates were held on it? And how many were passed unanimously without any debates completely? As if BJP should just do it from their head office. Why even come to the parliament? Why even waste the 2.5 lakh rupees per hour that you pointed? If they have to function in this manner where they don't want a debate, they don't want any questions asked, they should just keep signing. If it's just a signing formality, they should do it from their offices. Why even waste so much money?
Very quick response after wrap up after that. How many of these 167 bills were passed by voice vote? How many of them were sent to a standing committee? The allegation by the opposition is you don't want scrutiny of bills. Therefore, it serves your purpose by suspending their MPs and having disruption in the House, because then you can pass a bulk of these bills by voice vote.
These are outright lies. issues are discussed threadbare. But yes, if they want to walk out on issues and then go to President's Rashtrapati Bhavan, where Section 144 prevails, she said that, well, we would like to go to the... do you have separate rules for the common man and parliamentarians? That Section 144 is relevant and they're allowed to go across. You take permission. If you're given permission, why not? There's a democratic way. Now the question is, everything is discussed threadbare. Let there be no doubt about it. Even if it's passed through voice vote, we have the numbers. If we have the numbers, that's not our fault. People of this country have given us the numbers.
Okay.
So if the voice vote also, we carry the show.
Okay, I got to wrap up. I'm completely out of time. Thank you very much, Tom, Swati, Varun Singh, and of course, Manojit for joining us. But talking about, the politics that happens outside of Parliament, on the streets, today again, Congress President Sonia Gandhi is being grilled by the Enforcement Directorate. This is the second time, again, in the National Herald case. And to protest against the ED heat on the Gandhis, Congress leaders and their workers took to the streets. The protest turned ugly at several places, including here in Delhi, in Nagpur and Indore, where public property was vandalized, vehicles were set on fire, and protesters clashed with the cops. It was almost like a rerun of what happened last Thursday when Congress workers wreaked similar havoc in the name of protest. Many Congress workers and leaders have been detained for taking to the streets, including Congress MP Rahul Gandhi, who was leading the protest in the national capital. There were also scenes of the police, in some instances, behaving in a high-handed fashion with some Congress workers as well.
यहाँ पे सारे सांसद आए, हाँ, और उन्होंने महंगाई की बात की, हाँ, और बेरोजगारी की बात की, और ये हमें यहाँ बैठने नहीं दे रहे, हाँ, अंदर बात नहीं करी जा रही है, डिस्कशन नहीं अलाउड है, और यहाँ पे हमसे अरेस्ट कर रहे हैं। हिंदुस्तान की स्थिति है, पुलिस स्टेट है, ये तो सच्चाई है। मोदी जी राजा है, पुलिस स्टेट है।
All right, Ashish Meshi joining us live from outside the ED office. Pallavi Ghosh tracking the Congress party for us. Ashish, first things first. So today's questioning seems to be going on for longer. It's in 2 sessions. She was there before lunch and then after lunch. I think it's been going on for the last couple of hours at least. What exactly is the ED trying to ascertain from Sonia Gandhi?
So one thing that I can confirm is that the questioning is happening almost on the line as Rahul Gandhi was questioned. So the questions are almost similar. The Enforcement Directorate is basically looking at 2 things. One is the money trail, and secondary is about the assets that have come into the hands of young Indian, whether they are final beneficiaries or not. What I have been told by sources is that the answer that they are getting is that Section 25 company, that is Young Indian, cannot be a beneficiary. Reason being, there is no profit and loss account. It's a Section 25 company, and there is an income and expenditure account which is prepared. So here the benefit ultimately cannot reach into the hands of the person who are equity holders or shareholders. But more importantly, Associated General is still not closed down. So that is what their take or Sonia Gandhi or Rahul Gandhi's take is as of now.
Okay.
But ultimately the Enforcement Directorate believe that this is a sham transaction. It has been designed in such a manner that it looks to be okay, but ultimately the benefit have reached into their hands, and the benefit is to the tune of around 2,000 crore rupees. So let's see how things move forward, Zaka. But Enforcement Directorate, before filing the charge sheet, they have to question all accused. Even in this matter, we already seen that Kharge has been questioned, Pawan Kumar Bansal has been questioned, Rahul Gandhi has been questioned, and now Sonia Gandhi has been questioned. So this is the process under PMLA. So before filing the charge sheet, they are completing the process.
Okay, let me go across to Pallavi Ghosh as well. Politically speaking, strictly, it seems like the Congress protests, or at least comes out in the numbers that they do, only when one of their leaders, one of the Gandhis, is being questioned, whether it was Rahul Gandhi earlier, of course Sonia Gandhi over the last 2 times in the last week or so. Yes, of course, the Congress has every right to protest when their leaders are being questioned. They can call it high-handedness of the agencies. The larger question, though, is political resonance. How much resonance are these issues which are pertain to the leadership of the Congress party having amongst the Aam Janta? Because when was the last time, for example, Congress party hit the streets on matters concerning the Aam Janta? Pallavi, can you hear me? Okay, we've lost that link with
Is it
Pallavi.
better now?
All right, go ahead, Pallavi. Yes, I can hear you now, yes.
Is it okay now?
All right. I think there seems to be a problem there with Pallavi Ghosh's audio. We'll try and see if we can get her back. Politically speaking, is the Congress missing a trick or two by coming out on the streets in the numbers that they are doing so for their leaders, but not quite for issues that concern the armed army, as it were? But Ashish, how long is today's questioning expected to go on? And again, because of her health concerns, is there any special arrangement that's being made by the Enforcement Directorate?
So there were 3 requests that were made by Sonia Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi. One was that Priyanka Gandhi should stay inside the Enforcement Directorate headquarters as she keeps a tab on her medicines. So she is going to stay, and as we speak, Priyanka Gandhi is still inside. The second request was to keep an open and ventilated room so that, and the officers who are going to question are basically they have to sit at a distance so that she holds little chance of infection because she has recently recovered from COVID. Third request was that all the officers who are going to question her, they need to be RT-PCR negative and their test should be done, a day before. So all these requests have been accepted, and these were the requests that were made by Sonia Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi. Okay. The questioning, it started, she came in at around 11 here, and it went on till 2:30, and at around 2 o'clock, and then she came back at around 3:30, and since then the questioning is happening. So as we speak, we already crossed 6 p.m. and we are expecting it to get over by 6:30 or 6:45. But let's see, as her health is an issue. We all know that her health is an issue, and it should get over by 6:37. So let's see how things move forward during the day.
To Pallavi Ghosh. Yes. All right, we've just lost that link with Pallavi Ghosh again. In the meanwhile, I want to thank Ashish Mahershi. So the Congress party hitting the streets in numbers in Delhi, in Mumbai, in Bangalore, and of course things getting violent in some parts as well, including the pictures that you're seeing on your right, which is from Indore. So we'll leave it at that. We'll see how this story plays out and whether this has any resonance for the Congress party in the wider Janta, as it were. That's a wrap. In a moment, Akanksha will join you with the biggest exclusive tonight.